I met a traveler from an antique land. That's how Ozymandias begins, and from the very first line, Shelley takes us into a world of decay, power, and irony. This sonnet, written in 1818, may only be 14 lines long, but it carries the weight of empires and the silence of broken monuments. It's a poem about legacy, about pride, and ultimately about what time does to power. If you've got a copy of the GCSE Anthology, have it open while you watch, or even better, follow along using my revision guides on Patreon, where I break down each poem in full with annotations, model answers, and key quotes. It'll help you get more from this video and give you something to come back to when you're revising later on. Let's begin by grounding ourselves in the context. Percy Bysshe Shelley was one of the major Romantic poets. He was politically radical, deeply philosophical, and obsessed with the idea of change, not just personal or emotional change, but sweeping change on a societal scale. He was an atheist, a revolutionary, and someone who distrusted power, especially when it became tyrannical. That's important when thinking about Ozymandias, because at its core, this is a poem about the emptiness of authority. Shelley had just read about a statue of Ramesses II, a pharaoh of ancient Egypt known for his grand constructions and military might. The remains of one of his statues had recently been shipped to Britain, and rather than glorifying this figure, Shelley used the image to critique the arrogance of rulers who believe their names will last forever. Now, the poem itself is framed as a story within a story. Shelley doesn't just say, "I saw a statue." Instead, he says, "I met a traveler." This technique adds distance and a sense of legend or myth. The traveler describes what he saw in the desert, a broken statue. Just the legs remain standing, and nearby lies a shattered face, half buried in sand. The face is described as having a sneer of cold command, suggesting this was once a ruler who looked down on his people with contempt, someone who ruled with authority and harshness. But here's the real punch. On the pedestal of the statue are the words, "My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair." That line is the heart of the poem. It's the boast of a ruler who believed his empire, his works, his glory would make future generations tremble. And yet, nothing remains. The boast is ironic. The works are gone. There is no empire. Just sand. Just ruins. The command to despair now feels hollow. Or perhaps not. Perhaps we do despair, but not because of his greatness. We despair because all greatness ends. All power fades. This is where Shelley's mastery shines through. In just a few lines, he gives us a powerful image of hubris, of excessive pride, and shows how nature and time are the true rulers. The desert is vast, stretching far away. The words of the poem echo into silence. The form Shelley uses is a sonnet, traditionally a love poem, but he twists it. There's a mixture of the Shakespearean and Petrarchan sonnet forms, which creates a kind of dissonance, a breakdown of structure that mirrors the broken statue. The rhyme scheme isn't perfect either. It flows, but in an unpredictable way, and this again mirrors the theme. Things break down. Power is not eternal, and even poetic structure in Shelley's hands can serve the message. Notice too how the statue becomes almost a symbol of art's power. The sculptor, who we're told read the passions of the ruler and captured them in stone, outlasted the ruler himself. That sneer carved by an artist still lives on, even as the ruler's works are dust. So while Shelley critiques political arrogance, he also quietly celebrates the enduring nature of art. The sculptor's hands mocked the subject, in the older sense of the word, meaning to imitate or capture, and it's that mockery that survives. Let's look a little closer at the language. Vast and trunkless legs of stone suggest something imposing but incomplete. There's grandeur, but it's hollow. Shattered visage, the broken face, instantly implies the ruin of identity. The alliteration in cold command reinforces the harshness of the ruler's attitude. And that famous line, "Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair," is laced with dramatic irony. It's powerful, but Shelley uses it to show the futility of such boasts. Time is the true sculptor here. Empires, monuments, rulers, they all crumble. The lone and level sands stretch far away, swallowing all signs of human achievement. The desert doesn't care who Ozymandias was, it just continues, indifferent. Shelley's message couldn't be clearer. Power, no matter how absolute it seems, is temporary. Pride, especially the kind that tries to immortalize itself in stone, is ultimately doomed. The only thing that might last is the story, the poem itself. That's the irony. Ozymandias wanted to be remembered forever, and in a way he is, but not for his greatness. He's remembered because Shelley turned his downfall into a poem that has lasted centuries, taught to millions, studied and quoted long after the actual works of the real pharaoh crumbled into dust. So how can we relate this to our world today? Think of leaders who build monuments to themselves, who try to control narratives, who believe they'll go down in history as giants. Shelley's poem whispers a warning across time. It says, "Beware of pride. Beware of thinking yourself eternal. No power is immune to time, and no ruler, no matter how mighty, can control what future generations will remember, or why." In the end, Ozymandias isn't just about a statue. It's about the illusion of permanence. It's about the arrogance of believing you can freeze time with power, or buildings, or declarations. And it's about the quiet voice of poetry, enduring long after the empires have gone. If you want to go even deeper into this poem, every line, every image, and every interpretation, I've got a full 1-hour deep dive on Ozymandias right here on the channel. It's perfect for top-grade analysis and revision. And if you're looking for detailed resources to go with it, annotated guides, model answers, and exclusive content, check out the Patreon. It really supports the channel and gives you everything you need to master the anthology. And finally, don't forget to subscribe here on YouTube for more,